Hey guys, Keely Reesing here, owner of Love Hope Adventure, where I blog about the marriage relationship, intimacy in marriage, and how you can go deeper with your spouse. And today, I'm answering a question from somebody who wanted to know how can they keep from overstimulating their wife's clitoris. And man, this is like a tough thing. This is really hard because I think a lot of people don't really talk about being overstimulated in sex and how do you keep from being overstimulated and is there a way to recover from it? So I'm going to start by giving a few tips to a wife and then a few tips to a husband. But it's really important here that a wife has to learn her own body. Like there's only so many tips that I can give a husband who's trying to keep from overstimulating his wife. His wife is going to have to give him some clues. Give him some, verbal ooh, slow down or not so hard or whatever. Okay, so this reader asked, he said, well, I've used my hand and I've used a vibrator, and she gets to a point of being overstimulated. She's never orgasmed before. So maybe you're a wife in that position. Okay, your husband has used his hand, he's used even his mouth, any kind of direct stimulation, a vibrator or something. So the first thing I want to point out, if you've never had an orgasm, it's important to know that learning how to orgasm through different types of manual stimulation or through PIV sex, PIV is penis and vagina, not everyone can orgasm that way. Not every woman. I think that there's estimated only 30% of women can orgasm that way. Some women can orgasm through manual stimulation and then through penis and vagina after because they are actually worked up enough and they can have multiple orgasms that way. However, a lot of women really need direct stimulation. So the fact that you can easily get overstimulated, it's way easier to get overstimulated through direct manual, oral, or vibrator. It's way easier to get overstimulated that way than in penis and vagina because there's a lot of direct stimulation happening, right? And so it's important to know that each type of way that you can be stimulated means that you will have to do a little something different to orgasm that way. So the first thing that I recommend is that a wife pick a way that she likes the best and try it for a while. And that's the only way that she's going to try and achieve orgasm. So say, all right, I want to figure out how to orgasm through oral sex only. When I'm trying to orgasm, this is how I'm going to do it. Say vibrator. Okay, I only want to learn how to orgasm through a vibrator. I only want to, start here. Whatever her preferred thing is, she should pick one if she's never orgasmed before. Because she needs to learn how to master orgasming one way. And using a mouth, a hand, a vibrator, penis and vagina, all these different things, anything like this is all going to bring a different type of stimulation. So pick one and start there. Okay, so then the next thing I recommend with direct stimulation, with your mouth, this is never going to be an issue, keeping things lubricated, but with your hands and a vibrator, reapplying lubrication during sex, during that time is really, really important because the more she is stimulated and the longer it goes, when she dries out, that is the fastest way to become overstimulated, okay? So the wife is going to have to clue her husband into that, or maybe the husband can just feel. I'm not sure which way is the best, but if you are stimulating your wife for more than 4 or 5 minutes, you're probably going to need to add some lubricant to that. You might want to use something that doesn't evaporate as quickly or whatever, but don't be afraid to apply more lubrication because this will keep you from becoming overstimulated as fast. It provides a cushion, I guess, and it helps you to last longer. Now, if it's your mouth, that's not quite the same problem. You are going to be wet already, so this doesn't really apply to that. But if it's hand or if it's a vibrator or something, use more lubrication. Just keep adding it. The next thing that I recommend to a wife is she is going to have to communicate to her husband when something starts feeling just a little too much. So when you are thinking about the way this feels, it should be a progressive thing. And if all of a sudden it's like feels good, and really up high very fast, you need to bring that down, okay? So what happens if you are feeling pleasure and then you do a big jump like this and all of a sudden it's like feels so great all of a sudden really fast, you will never be able to orgasm because you've already gone past it. You've already gone past the place where you can orgasm. Orgasms for women have to be the slow building up, okay? Like think of it like going over a hill. If you were riding in a car on a roller coaster and you're just going up and then you go over the hill, right? Imagine if you didn't go up slowly, but you just went from going like this to up. Okay, well, that would be terrible on a roller coaster, but it will basically diminish your chances of being able to orgasm. So if you are the wife and your husband is stimulating you and you start feeling it getting really exciting way faster and you sort of like jumping past a few levels, tell him to back off. This is a point where you need to turn your vibrator down if you're using a vibrator. Hand stimulation, he needs to slow down, add more lubrication, or maybe tell your husband to stay still and let you actually do the motions, okay? So I know some couples are not okay with manually stimulating themselves in front of their partner. I get that. I totally understand that. If that's you and you want your husband to be the one using his hand, his mouth, the vibrator, whatever, tell him to sit still. Tell him to stick his tongue out and you move. Tell him to hold the vibrator in place and you move your body. Hold his hand still, whatever. You can even, if he's using his hand, you could even grab his hand and help guide him, or the vibrator. Okay, so this will be important for you because you need to figure out for yourself how to increase that pleasure without going too hard, too fast. And it's very easy to get there, okay? But the minute you start feeling that point where you think, I am going to get to a place of overstimulation, I don't feel like I have anywhere I can go after this, like this is literally as good as I think it can feel, you need to slow down. Stop for a second if you have to. You can completely rest. Give your body the ability to kind of come down a little bit. So don't just keep stimulating. If you start feeling like you're going to be overstimulated, stop. Tell your husband to stop. Regroup. You're not stopping for long. 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Stop and let your body stop having that stimulation and then try again, okay? This is actually something called an edging technique that can be really good, I think, because it kind of like builds up orgasm. Like, especially like, say if you're doing this for your husband and you're like bringing him to the point where he's very close to orgasming and then you stop, let him cool down, and then do it again, bring him to the point almost of orgasm, stop. Okay, edging can be really great. It can wreck a woman though if you do way too much of that, bringing to the point of orgasming and stopping. Eventually she's not gonna be able to do it, okay? So, but this technique can be very helpful if you are reaching a point of overstimulation. Like you're like, okay, this is getting too stimulating now. If you reach the point where it's overstimulated you already, does that mean you're just not going to be able to orgasm? No. Here's what that means. That means whatever you were doing, I'm sorry, you're going to have to forgive these dogs. They are going to bark the whole time I'm on here. So you're going to have to, with, like that overstimulation, stop completely. And maybe this means that you need to try something else. Okay, so maybe if you are using your hand and every time you get to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm overstimulated now, maybe the hand isn't the best thing for you and you need to do something that's softer. Or maybe you just need to stop for a few, completely stop, completely calm down, and try again. One of the reasons why we reach overstimulation in that area is because we are going too hard too fast. And if you were the husband, and this is the point where, this is like information to help a husband. Your wife is into it, right? She's really into whatever you're doing. And she's giving you like all these signs, like give it to me more, give it to me more, give it to me more. And then like, oh my God, that hurts. Stop. Don't do it. Get off me. Can't take this. You're going to have to hold yourself back. Okay? She may really be feeling great about this thing, but if you keep going faster and harder, you're going to take her to the point of overstimulation. You have to pace it out, okay? Even if she's like begging you to do more and giving you the signs, whatever those signs are, maybe verbally, maybe physically, keep staying slow. Be slow. Give her time, okay? You are not trying to race to the finish line for her to orgasm. Now, I'm just going to be honest. If you have a spouse, if you have a wife, who has never orgasmed, you should expect it to take her 20 to 30 minutes to reach her first orgasm, okay? Maybe even a little bit longer. Of course she's going to get overstimulated, okay? Of course she's going to get to a point where like, this is not feeling good anymore, because that's a lot of stimulation. You're going to get tired and you're going to want it to be over at some point. Like, oh my gosh, my hand's giving out. My vibrator's giving out. What's happening? It takes a woman, especially when she's first learning how to orgasm, a long time. That doesn't mean that this will always take her that long. A woman can reach orgasm in like 5 minutes, maybe even less, especially depending on how excited she is, okay? So one of the things I like to tell women who have never orgasmed before, you need to find that point in your cycle where you are really excited, all right? You're excited for no reason. Your hormones are like doing this thing that make you feel like ready for sex, even if you're generally the person who needs, like you're a sexual responder and you don't generally feel turned on unless something super sexy and sexual is happening between you and your husband. There is a point in the month where your body generally kind of like wants you to have sex so that you can get pregnant. And those days, those fertile days, whatever they are in your cycle, they will be your best opportunities to orgasm for the first time, because you're already so excited and your body has a lot of hormones and all the things it needs to reach orgasm. So figure out when those days are and try those days, okay, to do these things. Because when you are really excited and you are really turned on, manual stimulation, any kind of stimulation, is going to feel good and have less likelihood of reaching overstimulation. Look, I don't know why, okay? And these things are very hard to research. I'm just telling you what I've heard, what I've read, what I've experienced, things like that. But when you are really super turned on, very excited, it's way less likely that you're going to become overstimulated. Instead, that you're already going to start like here and have a much easier time going up and over versus starting down here off the charts. And then you have to get warmed up. It takes a lot less time if you're already very stimulated. So try and find those times in order to have the first orgasm, to really experiment and try. And that doesn't mean you won't get overstimulated at some point, but truthfully, you can just take more. Okay, so that's the thing about sex, is when you are experiencing a lot of pleasure, you can actually handle some amount of pain. It like dulls those pain nerves. So when you're really excited and very turned on, I think the reason why you don't reach overstimulation as much is because your body doesn't recognize pain the same way it does when you're not really stimulated. This is why people do some dumb stuff when they're really sexually stimulated. That's not good for their bodies, because the pain receptors sort of shut down a bit. And then after, you're like, oh my gosh, this hurts now, and I should have never let my husband or wife go that hard on me, right? But you get really excited. So part of what might be happening for the wife is she's not excited enough, okay? If you start stimulating your wife's clitoris, her vulva, that whole vaginal area, before she's really emotionally ready, then you are going to have to go like a snail's pace on stimulation. Okay, like a snail's pace. It would actually be better if she had some kind of like, flipping the switch, feeling turned on, more in the mood before you go straight there. So if there's other things you can do for your wife, maybe kissing her or rubbing other parts of her body, helping her get warmed up. Maybe your wife is not someone who feels turned on until she starts getting that stimulation in that area. And if that's the case, again, you are going to have to start at such a snail's pace. I mean, go slow and then go slower, right? So like, here's my coffee cup. If this is where clitoris, you're going to do that. Okay? That's a snail's pace. 1, 2. And I'm telling you, be light, be soft, be gentle. Let her get built up. You have to start from a really low place if your wife is not already stimulated. And if you're the wife in this situation, you need to tell your husband, that's too hard. Slow down. I know sometimes it can feel like that saying things during sex like that might be a turnoff or might break the mood or might actually be seen from the spouse as like fussing or whatever. You guys just have to go into this at the start and be like, okay, tell me what feels good and what doesn't feel good so I don't have to guess, and I'm not going to take an offense to it, and we are just learning. We're just learning. And eventually, the more you do it, the hotter it will be. Do it harder, do it softer, do it like this. Those things will now be sexy cues. They will not at all be like intrusive. So if you do it more, the first couple times you do it, maybe in the first years you do it, forget my dogs again, it might be like, oh, this isn't sexy because like he just doesn't seem to know how to please me. Don't expect your husband to know how to stimulate you. It's your body. Husbands don't expect to just know how to do it. And this is the difficulty with women, and I don't know if men are the same way, okay? This will be a question for Austin, but I can tell you for women, based on your hormone levels in your cycle, orgasms are different every point throughout the month. You need something different all throughout the month, okay? When your estrogen spikes, or when it dips, or leading up to your period, or coming right off your period, or whatever. Like, I'm telling you, it just changes the dynamics of the feelings between your legs. And so you are going to need to commit to always being able to give your husband guidance about how it feels. Don't feel bad about it. He shouldn't feel bad about it. This is not like an indication about how either one of you guys are doing with sex. Really, it's just you guys loving each other and helping one another. So these are kind of like, let me just put this in a bullet point. Hopefully this will help you guys with the stimulation thing. Start very, very, very slow. Unless your wife is super turned on from other things you've done, start very slow. Work your way up. Be willing to just stop. Let her rest. Add more lubrication if you're not using your tongue, if you're using some other type of manual thing. Wife, you need to communicate to your husband. Work it up slowly. Tell him when you need him to back off. Ask him to hold still so you can move and you can do the things that are stimulating to you. And then if you do reach the point of stimulation, stop. Just stop everything you're doing and try again. Still too stimulating, stop again. Maybe just completely break contact. Walk away for a minute. Go to the bathroom, whatever you got to do. Come back and try again. And then I'm going to just share this one last thing. If you are a wife who's never had an orgasm, I want to tell you something. Nobody told me this. But the first time, probably the first several times that you go to orgasm, you are going to get a burning sensation just like you have to pee. And you are gonna naturally wanna stop that, right? You're gonna be like, I don't wanna pee, especially if my husband's giving me oral sex. That'll be terrible. No, you're not gonna pee. Maybe some will come out, I don't know. But it's definitely going to have that same burning sensation that you would have right before you're going to urinate. And you're just gonna have to push past that, okay? Just push past it, because that is what orgasms feel like at the beginning. Eventually it may feel a little different for you, and it's gonna feel different for you all throughout the month, but especially in your first one. So you're gonna have to tell yourself, don't hold back, don't stop, just push forward. Guys, thanks so much for joining me today. I really hope this helps someone. If you have questions for me, please fill out my anonymous questions form on my website. I'll leave the link in the video. Go to lovehoopadventure.com to read all of my latest blogs. And also, if you want to get my weekly newsletter, sign up at lovehoopadventure.com/newsletter. And again, I'll put all the links here in the video description so you can follow along. Thanks guys so much for joining me, and I can't wait to talk with you later.